During the last class, what we were discussing is about the structured approach to programming. Now, in order to do a structured approach or a process by which a structured approach to programming can be completed, one of the tool is a flowchart. There are actually three different methods of expressing the same code or same program in a human readable format, so that a person can understand what that particular program does. One of that method is a flowchart. Flowchart is actually a graphical representation of the program that is to be coded. So a flowchart is a diagram that depicts the flow of a program, that is how the control of a particular program proceeds in a particular program. That is the flowchart. So in this slide, there is a picture, there is a figure which shows a flowchart for a pay calculating program. So in this particular picture, it consists of some oval shaped or oval shapes, then parallelograms, then rectangle, then some arrows also. So these are the components of a flowchart. That is, let's see what is written in the flowchart. So here it is in an oval, it is written as start. That is, the program is starting. So then in a parallelogram, it is said that display message, how many hours did you work? So that is, once the program starts, it displays a message that is how many hours did you work. Then we have to input that particular number of hours that we work. So it reads, the program reads the number of hours. So that is this read hours, read the number of hours that particular person works. Then the next message pops up, that is display the message, how much do you get paid per hour? So that is the second message. So that is, then we have to read the pay rate, that is the rate at which we are being paid. So that is the next condition. Then we have to multiply the hours by pay rate. So that is per hour how much we are getting, the number of hours we are having, and the pay rate, that is the per hour salary of us. It is also, or pay of us is also given. So then the total pay that we should receive for that month, that we can calculate by multiplying these two quantities, that is the number of hours as well as the pay rate. So that is then calculated, that is multiply the number of hours by pay rate and then store the result in gross pay. Gross pay will be a variable. So then we have to display that gross pay, the total value that we obtained in the previous step. In this step, what we obtained, that is displayed here. So then the program ends. So this is the flow. This is the flow how this particular program works. That is the program of calculate the pay is displayed here. That is how that particular program will work. That is shown in this particular flowchart. This diagram is known as a flowchart for calculating the pay. Now let's see what are the different components of a flowchart. The basic flowchart symbols are actually, see, there are multiple symbols given here. That is an oval shaped boxes are there, then parallelogram shaped boxes are there, then actually the rectangular boxes are there, then the arrows are there. These are the different symbols or the different components of a flowchart. So the first thing that we notice is the start as well as end. Both are having the oval shaped boxes. That is they are known as the terminals. The terminals means it is starting and it is ending. So that is the start and end terminals of the flowchart. So it is represented by rounded rectangles or oval shapes actually, or oval shapes or rounded rectangles. So these represent the starting or ending point of a flowchart. So the terminals, the first two things, first one as well as the last one. This one as this particular box as well as this particular box, which are rounded rectangles or oval shapes. They are the terminals, that is the starting and ending, which denotes the starting and ending of a particular program or the program which is represented by the given flowchart. Then the next component in a flowchart is the input and output operations. So this it is represented by these parallelograms. See, in the parallelograms, if you watch or if you listen carefully, these things, that is the input and output operations, are given in parallelograms. So this is an input, here it is an input, here read hours, this is again, sorry, this is not an input, this is an output. So this is an output, that is the display message, that is an output that displays the message. Then read hours, that is an input, that is an input to the particular program. Then this message, that is again an output message. Then this is an input, that is it reads in the pay rate. Then here is another output, that is display the gross pay. So all these parallelograms, they represent either input or output. It depends on what is the content in that particular parallelogram. So like this, display the message means it has to output, and the read means it has to input. So the hours as well as the pay rate are input. Then the messages, how many hours did you work, as well as how much do you get paid per hour. These two are the output messages or output. So this is the input-output operations in a flowchart. Then there is one more thing that we noticed, that is a process, that is something happening inside the program. That is, it is multiplying hours by pay rate. It is not visible to us. It is being happened within the program. So that is a process. And a process is represented by a rectangle. So it is represented by processes are represented by rectangles. So indicates a process such as a mathematical computation or a variable assignment, etc., etc. So in this case, actually a mathematical computation is happening, that is multiply hours by pay rate. So this is a mathematical calculation. Then store the result in gross pay. That is, we assign the result of this particular multiplication or this particular operation into gross pay. So that is an assignment. So a process indicates whether it indicates either a computation or a variable assignment. So that is the process. So all the processes are given in rectangles. So these are this is the third component, that is a process. Now in a flowchart, there is a possibility of 4 structures will be there. Actually, there are multiple, more than this. There are other components also in the flowchart that we will discuss later while we discuss this sequence, decision, repetition, case, etc. While we discuss the structures, the flowchart structures, then we will discuss the remaining components in a flowchart. So there are actually 4 different flowchart structures are there. As we have seen in the case of structured approach to programming, there are some three types of structures were there. But in this case, there are 4 structures are there. One is a sequence, then a decision, then repetition, then case. So how these are represented in a flowchart, that we will see. So sequence structure is a simple one-dimensional. Actually, it cannot be considered as a one-dimensional. It is a one-line structure, that is in a one-directional structure. So it is a series of actions that are performed in the sequence. The pay calculating example was a sequence flowchart because there were no branchings happening in that one. Only each box was having only one incoming arrow as well as one outgoing arrow. So that is a sequence flowchart. In a sequence flowchart, each element will be having a maximum of 1 incoming and 1 outgoing arrows, except the terminal boxes. In the terminals, there will be only either, if it is a start, then there will be only 1 outgoing arrow, and if it is an end terminal, then there will be 1 incoming arrow. So that is the sequence structure. Then there is a possibility of a decision structure. That is, a decision structure is whether it is a comparison. It compares 2 values, the values of 2 variables, or compares one value with the other. So that is like this one, x is less than y or not. There is a comparison in that one. There is a decision is to be taken. Whether this is true or false, whether this is happening, yes or no, depends on true or false, or depends on yes or no. Something has to happen. So that is this structure. So this is another component in this one, that is a diamond-like structure. In this diamond-like structure, it is a decision. Diamond-like component, that is a decision component. That is, it does compare a specific value. It is mostly a comparison of values that is happening, or a checking of some specific conditions. That is also happening. So that is a flowchart. Some sequence or some operation is happening here, somewhere here, where it is the flowchart is written. There is something is happening. Then it is checking whether x is less than or y. So the values of x and y should be defined above this particular structure. So that is checked. If it is no, that is if x is not less than y, or x is at least equal to or greater than or equal to y. So that is no. So it will calculate a as x plus y. So it is calculated, the value of a is calculated as x plus y. X and y are added together, then it is assigned to a if it is no. So if x is less than y, then it is yes. So that is, if x is less than y, then we calculate a as x times 2, that is 2 times x. So that is the flowchart, and the C code for this particular condition is if x is less than y, that is if x is less than y, that is the condition here. X is less than y, then a is treated as x bar 2, that is 2 times x. X star 2 means x times 2. X is multiplied with the 2. So then else means this no. So if it is no, that is if x is not less than y, x is at least equal to or x is greater than or equal to y, in that case a equal to x plus y. So that is a decision structure. A decision is to be taken from here. So in most of the decision structures, there will be a yes condition and a no condition, or a true condition or a false condition. So that is happening. That is in a flowchart. In a decision structure, there will be one input, and like this in this particular element, that is this diamond-shaped element, there will be one input and 2 outputs, one for yes and the other for no. So there will be 2 different outputs, and in most of the cases, both these will be joining together after some process that is happening. So these rectangles that represent process. So after that process, here it is calculate a as x times 2, and here on the left side it is calculate a as x plus y. So after these 2 processes, after only one will be happening. They are joined together. That is, the flow will be running to some other process, or some termination, or some terminal, or some parallelogram structure, or whatever it is. So that goes on. So that is a decision structure. So then there is another type of decision structure, that is only on one side there will be some process happening, like this. In this case, if x is less than y, then we calculate a as 2 times x, or x times 2. So if x is less than y, then that is yes. When this particular condition is yes, that is if this evaluates to yes, then only there will be some calculations happening. If it is evaluating to no, then there will be nothing happening. Nothing will be, no changes. That is, if x is less than y, then there will be no changes. Instead, some operation after this one, after this entire calculation, there will be some operation will be happening. Sorry, some operation will be happening here. So that's it. So the C code for the this particular structure is if x is less than y, a equal to x star 2. So that is it. And the repetition structure. The repetition structure we have seen in the structured approach to programming. That is, in a repetition, some specific lines of code is repeated again and again until a specific condition is satisfied. So this is written something like this. That is here, then there will be a checking, that is a decision will be taken, and then from this decision taking, here if it is yes, we add 1 to x. That is, if x is less than y, we add 1 to x, and then this particular one goes to or branches to this before this particular structure, that is before this decision structure or decision component. Before this decision component, it comes to here. So that is, this has to repeat it till this yes condition is valid. That is, till x is less than y, this particular condition is repeating. So that is given in the X code as while x is less than y, x plus plus. That is x plus x means this is equivalent to x equal to x plus 1. That we will discuss later. So this is repeated till x is less than y, or I mean till x is at least equal to y. Once x is at least equal to y, or x is greater than or equal to y, so then this is happening, or that is this condition becomes no, or this condition becomes false. So when this condition becomes false, it goes to some other operations. So that is, then here it can be a sequence, or here it can be another structure, another repetition structure, another sequence structure, or another decision structure, whatever it is. So that is possible. So but in a repetition, this output to this processors is taken to, or out of this one, the output to this one is taken to, or as input to this decision component. So that is a repetition structure. So then the controlling the repetition structure is somewhat difficult in the sense if the actions are not performed properly, if they are not performed properly, then that may eventually cause a loop which is infinitely running, which does not terminate at all. That is, the action performed by a repetition structure must eventually cause the loop to terminate. That is, in some cases, when we write a program, what happens is it won't terminate. It goes on infinite times. So that is an infinite loop. This is an example of an infinite loop. See, x is less than y. We are checking x is less than y. If x is less than y, we display x. Then again, this is going here. There is no change in x. X is only displayed. So it goes to here. Then again, it is checking x is less than y. Yes, it is x is less than y. So it again displays x. This goes on. This goes on infinite times, or until we break the program. So this type of loops, we should be very much careful about this type of repetition states. That is, within the program or within this process, there should be some specific code which could result in such a way that at some point of time, this no will come into action. That is, this particular condition becomes false. So that is the only way that we can end a loop. Otherwise, we will have to break our program. So in this particular condition, x is never changed. So here is a small question: how can this particular flow chart, this particular flow chart, can be modified so that it is no longer an infinite loop? In this case, this is an infinite loop because x is less than y. If x is less than y, then it goes on infinite times. So what is the possibility of making it a loop which is being terminated on its own? So that is, there are multiple ways. That is, it depends on how the action has to be performed. But in this case, the simplest condition is we have to, after displaying the x, we need to add 1 to x. So this will repeat until x becomes equal to y. Once x becomes equal to y, this particular condition, that is x is less than y, becomes false. and hence the no condition becomes active, and this exits from the loop. Otherwise, it will continue till an infinite times. So then the last structure, that is a case structure. That is, a case is coming up when a condition checking results in multiple answers, whether it is or a yes or no instead of an yes or no answer. If it has multiple conditions, multiple values that is coming up, so in that case we goes for a case structure. So a case structure is like this: a case, years employed, that is we consider the value of this particular variable, that is the years employed. We consider the value of years employed. So the years employed can be 1, 2, 3 or some other value. So there are only 4 options available for years employed. So if 1 is happening, the action should be something. If it is 2, if years employed is 2, there should be some other operations. If years employed is 3, there should be some other operations. And if it is other, that is the years employed is other than this 1, 2 and 3, then another operation. So that is how it is done. So if years employed is 1, the bonus is set to 100. If years employed is 2, bonus is set to 200. If years employed is 3, bonus is set to 400. And if years employed is 800, more than 3, any other value, the bonus is set to 800. So then once this particular assignment of bonus is completed, then it goes to our normal structures, normal sequential structure or repetition or whatever it is. So that is how a case structure is taken. That is, in a case structure, actually to the out of the case structure, there is multiple options available. In the case of a simple decision structure, there were only 2 options available, either a yes or a no. But in the case of a case, there is a possibility of more than 2 options. That can be 4, 5, 6, or it depends on the type of the program that we are working on. Okay, that is the fourth structure. So the different structures that is available in a flowchart are, one is a sequence, then there is a repetition, then there is a decision, then the case. These are the 4 different structures, and we have seen all the 4 structures, how they are represented in a flowchart, how they are being drawn in a flowchart. Now, there is another component that is available in the flowchart that is mainly used in the case of large flowchart. That is a connectors. So a connector is one that indicates a second flowchart segment begins where the first ends. That is, this is a flowchart segment, and because of time limitations, we could not draw this part of that particular flowchart here below this one. So what we do is we end this particular part, this particular part of the flowchart with an A in a circle. Then we start the second one, the second part as with an A in a circle. So that means this is continuing here. This particular operation has to continue from here. So that is the connectors. The connectors is normally it is taken with the A in a circle. And if there are multiple connectors, then you have to use A, B, C, D, etc. That is the alphabet, the capital alphabets that you can use. But this is used in the case of flowcharts, which cannot be drawn in a single sequence, as a single sequence, or as a which is not able to be represented in a single paper. You may have to use multiple papers, etc. In that case, you will have to go for the connectors. Then there is another component, that is the modules. The modules actually what we will see as a module later. That is, it is actually a function, another function which is to be called repeatedly. So that is represented by this type of a rectangular box. That is a rectangular box with the 2 additional lines on both ends. So in the case of our pay calculating program, we start, then we read input, then we calculate the calculated calculate pay function is called. That is calculate pay function, that is written as another function. If it is some difficult programming conditions, that is when the program is very large, when the operation that is to be done is very large, very lengthy, in that case what we do is we create a separate code for that one, so that we will be able to access it many times as we need it. So we will see about functions later. So in order to represent a function, or in order to represent a special module, so that is represented using this particular shape, that is a rectangle with the two small boxes on either side. So and this one represents that there will be a separate flowchart for this module, that is whatever is written inside this one, this will be having another flowchart, that is a second flowchart will be available for this calc pay function. So that is a module. So now how we will combine structures. So in this particular what you say flowchart segment, this is a flowchart segment. Here actually we have considered we are included two decision structures together. We are combined the two decision structures. So here is some input to the first decision structure, that is whether x is greater than maximum. If x is greater than maximum, that is if this particular condition evaluates to true, this goes to here, yes goes to here. Then we check whether x is less than maximum, that is x is less than a specific value. So if it is again yes, then display is x is within limits. So if it is not less than x is not less than maximum, then it says that display that is x is outside the limits. So in this condition what we are checking is whether x is within the limits, that is x is having a specific lower limit, that is lower value and a higher value. Say if it is between 60 and 100, if some value is between 60 and 100, something has to happen. So that is the condition. So we are first checking whether x is greater than the minimum value, that is the 60, whether x is greater than 60. If x is greater than 60, we then check whether x is less than 100. If x is less than 100, that means x is within the limits. And if x is less than, greater than the maximum value, x is greater than the maximum value, then display x is outside the limits. So here also, if x is not less than, not greater than minimum, if it is less than minimum, in that condition, this comes, that is the no condition becomes true, that is this condition becomes false. This x is greater than minimum condition becomes false. So that is no. Then we go to this condition, that is display x is outside the limits. So this is how we combine the structures, that is output of a particular box or a particular control structure or a control element in the flowchart is taken as the input of another control element. So that is how this is being combined. So the combination or combining of different structures are done using these arrows. You can use arrows in one direction only. You cannot use an arrow like this. Double-sided arrows cannot be used. Only single-sided arrows can be used. If you want an arrow to be taken back, you have to draw another arrow. So because in one arrow there may be some function happening, and in another arrow some other function may be happening. Some condition may be happening. So you cannot use a double-sided arrow or double-ended arrow, not a double-sided arrow, that is a double-ended arrow. Only you can use a single-ended arrow, that is one will be the starting point and the other one will be the ending point. So and one will be representing the output to a particular box, and the other will be representing the input to another box. So that is how the arrows can be used. So the arrows can be used to combine the structures. So the different symbols that is being used in the flowchart is the oval shape or the rounded rectangles, So that is the terminals. Then the parallelogram, that is the input or output operation. Then the rectangle, that represents the process. Then the decision structure, that is a rhombus, that is a decision structure. Then a circle, that is a connector. Then a rectangle with the two small boxes on either side, that represents a module. And there is one more element in this case, that is the arrow, that is one-dimensional arrow. That is also an element in the flow chart. These are the different symbols. These are the 6 different symbols that is being used in the flow chart. And these are the components of the flow chart also. The 6th, another component, that is the 7th component, is this one, that is the arrow, which represents the relation between two different symbols. So these are another representation of the same thing, that is the symbol start and end. An oval represents a start or end point, etc., etc. Line connector, that shows the relationship between the respective shapes. So this is about the flow chart. What is this? Is all about the flow chart. And once we start programming for many programs, we may have to draw. We have to draw the flow charts also. For almost all the programs, we will have to draw the